Okay, Acen, thank you so much for joining me on my model podcast. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Jacqueline.
Yes. So, for our audience, um, please walk through briefly your model journey, how and why you got into it.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Well, for me, it kind of started probably back in 2016 when I made the decision that I actually kind of wanted to pursue this.
Right.
And honestly, that was like more or less from just influence of like friends or people saying that you have the look.
The look.
So you should consider this. So I like kind of like tentatively pursued it. Uh, I wasn't really in it fully. My heart wasn't really in it. I was just like, okay, well, let's see where
Right.
this goes. So it wasn't
Hmm.
until about 2 years after that, to 2018, where I started taking it very seriously. Um, and so I was already into fitness. I've kind of been in that my entire life, so I knew I wanted to be a kind of fitness model. Um, this whole swimsuit and everything else kind of like happened on my path like afterward,
Right.
but I knew like initially I was like I want to be a fitness model. So I just kind of tried to get in better shape. Not that I was in bad shape before, it was, but I just wanted to be top tier
Right.
before
Right.
going
And
into
that's
like,
important.
yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of like how that happened. Like it was 2016, the idea was swimming around in my head from other people. 2 years after that, I was like, okay, let's give this a serious go. And
Right.
at that point, I was freelance, just kind of grinding for myself. Yeah.
And what did freelance look like for you? Because everyone's freelance journey is quite different. I interviewed everyone before you, and they were all saying, "Oh, it was great," and then some people would be like, "Oh, it was very hard." So, what was it like for you freelancing?
Well, honestly, it's kind of like a mixture of both. It was definitely the challenging. Um, a lot of hiccups, bumps, but I learned so much from it, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that without that experience, I would not be where I am today, you know.
Right.
Um, so I mean, the short and thick of it was that like I learned how to deal with rejection in freelance.
Yes.
uh, because I got rejected a whole lot, you know. I wasn't
Right.
represented by anybody. I was this new, guy on the block trying to make a name for himself, and agents let me have it as I tried to get work here and there. Um,
Right.
uh, but as time went on, with each rejection, I learned, and I made notes. I actually had like a tablet of like notes of what to do better next time. Like
Oh,
every
that's so
time I
good.
got rejected,
Right.
like
That's a
uh,
great idea, especially for those listening, because as we all know, modeling is 90% rejection.
yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
And you really got to have tough skin. So I really like that you wrote it down and used it as um, something to improve on, like critique. And what were some specific things that you took in and really worked on improving?
Well, one of the main things I saw reoccurring in my auditions was, you know, uh, well, actually, let me backtrack for a second, because it makes sense if I tell it this way. So
Right.
first, um, I was not as lean as I am now when I
Mm-hmm.
initially started,
Right.
and as a fitness model, uh, I I took a lot of shit for that. like, I remember there was a specific agency that will not be named right now that I went for, and they told me to my face, um, "You're not lean enough. You need to cut your body fat,
Right.
down a few percentages. You need to lose a
Right.
bit of weight." And at that point, I wasn't even like heavy. I've never been heavy, really heavy,
Right.
but like in my mind, I was like, wow, like that was the first time I'd heard like you're fat, but not really actually saying you're fat, you know?
Right, right.
So I realized at that point, okay, like this is kind of like top tier. Being of just in the industry in general, it's kind of like top tier
Right.
people. You know, so there's the kind of God-given look, so to speak, but then
Hmm.
there's the work ethic that kind of like goes hand in hand with that to really bring out the best um, in a particular person model.
Right.
Um, and for me, like I didn't realize like uh, how specific the requirements were. So I learned and I learned, and once I got the image down in terms of like body fat, whatever, so on and so forth, then I realized that I suck at posing. So
Another thing to start working on.
yeah, so they were
Right.
like, "Oh, we like your look, but you can't really pose well." So I was
Right.
like, "Okay, let's learn. Let's figure out how to get better at that."
Right.
Um,
I
and
love how you took that as constructive criticism and just kept improving.
yeah, I mean, it's like if you want something bad enough, like you'll find a way, right?
Right. You'll make it happen.
Right, and that's just like with like life in general, you know.
Exactly.
but but yeah, so those were like two really big things that kind of like um stopped me from really like moving forward in the industry.
Right.
Um, in terms of freelance, like when I did cut the body fat, I noticed that I got way more work, like which is
Interesting.
like
Right.
interesting.
Is
Like
it
I
more
think
in the
it,
fitness work?
yeah, yeah. I think they really look for kind of the chisel kind of
Right.
look, so to speak. Whether that's like jaw lines or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or just like abs, like just really like lean body all
Right.
around. Because ultimately they're trying to sell a product. Like you're just the model is kind of like there to sell a product.
Right.
So
But you need to be the best of the best
exactly,
to be able to sell that
to
product.
sell the product. So
Yeah.
I kind of like learned that too in freelance, just because it initially when I got in, I was like, oh, the spotlight's gonna be on me, but I
Right.
realized that
It's really
I'm
not.
just no, not at all. I'm just selling a product. That's really at the end of the day, that's where it starts and that's where it ends.
Right.
Um,
And
which
that's
is
usually
fun
what
too.
people don't realize is that modeling is very much a business. It's not really about you.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
absolutely.
I mean, yeah, you see the looks and you see the end products, but at the end of the day, you are what helps them sell the product. So, um, what tips and tricks do you have for our audience in terms of changing your mindset from, oh, this is about me, towards more in that business mindset?
I think for me, the biggest thing was initially just realizing it, and once I realized that that was kind of the focus, I was
Mm-hmm.
able to just adjust. I think like uh, just understanding like what the industry is
Right,
like the first step towards like adjusting yourself according to that, because
right,
before you're just going to like go off of your own assumptions, but after you're able to make those adjustments. So I
right,
mean for me, like once I realized okay that my amount of work I get is predicated upon how good I am at selling a product. So, like before an audition, maybe looking at the brand specifically and other
right,
models that have like modeled that brand and seeing what it is about them that you might want to emulate in some way,
right.
but make it your own, of course, too, because I do think individuality goes a long way too in the industry.
Absolutely. Which is another thing. Um, how do you make yourself stand out from the thousands of other models that are also trying to do this? Because I know my listeners, and I'm pretty sure your people that also look up to you are trying to figure out within themselves, how am I special? How do I stand out? What makes me a supermodel, basically?
Yeah.
What was that for you?
For me, honestly, uh, I'm trying to avoid sounding cheesy here, but I think it's
That's fine.
inevitable. um, I think, honestly, like that kind of like took place in me, like cultivating that individuality and uniqueness. That kind of took place outside of modeling for me.
Huh,
Modeling is kind of just a way to kind of display that because
right.
it is a form of expression, self-expression.
Absolutely.
So, so I, yeah, it's just like getting to like know yourself and spending a lot of time by yourself
Right.
so that you can like get comfortable with who you are and get comfortable in that nature, that character, whatever makes you you,
Right.
growing in confidence in that. I think honestly for me that starts alone before, you're around people.
Right.
And then once you get secure within yourself, then you can be who you are, um, without it, getting mixed in with other people's personalities because you're trying to like please the crowd or whatever.
Right. And that is so true. That is actually very good advice because uh, there's a saying in the underground model world where we are silent actors.
Yeah.
So it's our job to be able to take on the persona of whatever it is that the brands are putting out there. We're to be a part of the story and we need to sell that story. Um, so that's actually really good advice. How were you able to, or what point of time were you able to say that I'm secure in myself, so I am able to do what the brands are asking me, no matter what it is?
Well, I mean, I think it happened in phases, honestly, because initially going into the industry as a freelance model, I assumed that I was ready,
Mm-hmm.
that I was secure in myself. And I did feel like that at the time, but rejection after rejection brought out things within myself that I didn't realize were there.
Yeah.
And so while that was happening, I had to face that in the mirror. I was like, okay, I am insecure about these things. But
Could you give some examples of what those things were and how you were able to overcome that?
yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, for one, when I first got in, like, I, I was probably about 12 pounds heavier than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I said, like the agency that will not be named told me that if you're trying to make it in the industry as a fitness model, you need to get leaner,
Right.
um, or you're not gonna make it. And that was the way they kindly told me to leave, essentially. Um, and that
Yeah.
kind of sucked for me. Also because I kind of dealt with, uh, it wasn't. I mean, I guess it kind of was a little weight problem in a way because um, I couldn't like seem to like get down
Right. Right.
because I was already like a healthy eater. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, and then ultimately it was like it was um it was actually intermittent fasting that like kind of like did it for me.
Oh, that's so interesting.
But when I did that, or when I incorporated that into my regiment, like I got to where I needed to be, and yeah.
Well, that's great. So, moving a little bit forward, how are you able to transition from a freelance model into a signed model?
How was I able to?
Mm-hmm. And what
Well,
what steps were you able to take? And when did that happen? What was your experience like? What's your experience like now as a signed model?
yeah. Well, when we met, I was unsigned, and lo and behold, through that connection, I was able to get my first mother agency signing.
Right.
So, like I always say, there's no such thing as coincidence. Um, I didn't realize at that time that our friendship would be like so profound in my life, but
Right.
it happened nonetheless, right? So
It's so crazy. Yeah. So it's funny because the world is much smaller than people realize, especially the
yeah,
modeling industry. And I really truly believe that you attract what energy you put out there. So you having that great energy, that, being a sincere and genuine person, it it will obviously go back to you no matter what. So I'm really happy that you're able to get signed. Um,
yeah,
what is your experience like right now as a signed model? And recently I saw that you got signed to another big agency.
yeah.
What was that
10,
like?
yeah, yeah. So it was, I think it was about 5 weeks ago, like a month ago from this point. I got signed by 10 Management, which is like
Woohoo!
you said, thank you. It's a major modeling agency. And
Yes.
that was an incredible experience too. Um, having the Zoom call with them and having both of those agents, Zach and actually her name is Jacqueline too.
Oh, really? That's so
Yeah,
funny.
the female agent actually over there. Um, just having them like, see me in person and say, wow, like, we see so much greatness in you, you'll be a great fit for us.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was just a great experience. And then moving forward from that, being signed with them and, um, you know, them taking me under their wing, so to speak, and, you know, uh, trying to take me to the next level,
Right.
Great.
So I know it's only been 5 weeks, especially during the pandemic. Work has been really slow for all of us, but
Yeah.
what are some things that you're currently learning right now from 10 management?
Well, I mean, they hold so many workshops via Zoom. Like just a few weeks ago, they did like a posing kind of workshop, so to speak.
Yeah, that's great.
And then there was another one where they did a kind of like I guess it was like showing you how to like take kind of like model worthy pictures with your phone, like the
Ah, that's
lighting and
very
all these
important.
things. Yeah,
Yes.
totally, totally. Those things. I got a chance to speak with my agents directly a few times actually. Mainly few phone calls here and there. And, they just like help me where I need help. Um,
Hmm.
and mostly it's just through email, but they're really quick to correspond with me, so it's like been
Right.
pretty effortless. Like if I need help, if I have questions, it's answered like usually within the next day.
Right.
So that's really great. um I've learned that the modeling industry is very fast paced,
Oh, yeah.
very fast paced,
Right.
and that's something that I didn't fully realize as a freelance model, um because by and large, like the majority of the work you do is like on your own accord. But
Right.
when you get signed to a major agency, like I am, they'll send you stuff, and I'll look and I'll be like, oh snap, this is in like another state.
Right.
you know, I
And
gotta
it's
like,
tomorrow.
yeah, and you just gotta like hop on a plane and just, all right, I'm there.
Right.
And then it's like they expect you to just do it, like the agents that sign me. um and from what I gather, like a lot of agents or models that are signed to the major agencies, like that's just part of their life. You travel now,
Right.
and it's just like
Right.
what you do now. So it's like, yeah, we got work for you in Colorado tomorrow. Can you make it? Or not, can you make it, be there.
Right.
you know
Right. That
yeah,
expectation. You are a working model now.
yeah,
Time to
absolutely.
act like it.
So I mean, that's kind of cool. Like I guess like traveling a little bit. Like you said, it's not been nearly as much as um, what it would be outside of the
Right.
pandemic. Um, but yeah, I think that's been one thing that I've just like learned. Like, oh wow, I need to get in that mentality of like being able to take off at a moment's notice if need be.
Right. What steps you need to take to be ready to to have that kind of lifestyle too. That's super important for those listening, because I know I'm trying to get ready too on how to be able to, trying to save up to be able to jump on those planes to go to these places and whatnot. Because do
Yeah.
you pay out of pocket, or does the agency cover it, or is the work that they're sending you able to keep moving you forward?
Well, so far it's all been taken care of. Like whether I get mostly it's like after like the work has been done.
Right.
So it's like I guess you still kind of need like the money initially, or if you have a credit card, you can do that. But I mean, at least from stuff that I have gotten so far, it's just you just get reimbursed, for your
Hmm.
travel expenses or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, because that's super interesting. That's something that a lot of people talk about, and I'd like more transparency of how the technical side of modeling actually happens. Because everyone just sees the glitz and the glam. It's like, all right, you're signed. That's great. All right, but wait, to travel, how does that work?
yeah, yeah. And I think for me, I remember like quite literally like when I got the email, like my heart started racing because I wasn't prepared at all. And I was like,
Really?
"Oh snap! This is in Colorado." And like I had clients that day because I'm a personal trainer.
Right.
So I quickly learned that you have to be able to, and I am very thankful that I have like um build a relationship and rapport with my clients so that I can
Right.
tell them like, hey, I've got a modeling gig. Is it all right if we reconvene next week? And they'll all be okay with it. So I think
Right.
like advice for aspiring models, make sure that the job that you have is flexible enough to do that.
100%.
Because if it's not, you're gonna get fired probably. So yeah.
Right. Uh, let's talk a little bit more deeply about the work-life balance and modeling. How are you able to balance the two?
Well, I was very blessed and fortunate to be in a profession that kind of straddles fitness modeling like very closely.
Mm-hmm.
So I work out like just being in the gym and
Right.
training my clients, like which also goes hand in hand with staying in shape for fitness modeling.
Right.
So it's like it's really like a slam dunk for me.
Right.
And then being able to adjust um, my schedule in accordance with work that I get again is just, I mean, I really couldn't ask for anything
It's a
else.
win-win.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, I think that's really the balance that I found, like um, being able to be in a job that like allows me to have flexibility like that.
Right.
um, and not so much like, because I mean the job is flexible, but I think more than the flexibility of the job is my connection that I've made with my clients,
Right.
because that enables me to tell them I'm not going to be there
Right.
and them not to drop me as their trainer. So for any personal trainers that are out there listening to this, it pays to truly care about your clients,
Right.
um, beyond just their goals. Like care about them as people and as living souls, and
Right.
that, like Jacqueline said, that energy that you give them, they'll give back to you.
Right. Exactly. Which is great because, that aspect of your job translates into the modeling world of fostering and um, really building that rapport, fostering those relationships, that clientele, because you want to be with those clients for as long as possible. And even
Absolutely.
the relationships that I've made through modeling, I'm still in contact with them, and they're all great people, and I love sharing stories. So, um, what's that been like for you regarding having this great community around you, both as a fitness trainer and a model?
Well, honestly, it's been a mixture. I have a mixture of feelings in regards to it. Being completely honest, I love it. It's
Hmm.
incredible. But by nature, I'm an introvert actually. You can't tell that by how I interact in my daily life, but
Right,
actually I am that. So,
right,
um it's kind of like interesting, like mixing it up with so many people every
right,
day, and then being a part of the modeling industry where you kind of have to,
right.
because
Especially
it's
with the
it's
speed of communication where it's constantly like this. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and
we
it's like based
understand.
on, yeah, it's just like, I mean, a lot of modeling is about connections too, so it's being able to um communicate effectively with people,
Right,
and being genuine with them so that that connection is organically like built,
right.
because you never know.
You
Like
never
I think
know.
you and I are case in point of that, right? So,
Right, right.
uh, but yeah, I mean, I think the uh, the relationships that I've been able to build in the modeling industry, for instance, have really been awesome. Being able to get pointers from people that have similar aspirations as I do,
Right,
or whether it's that or whether it's helping someone that just got in the industry, giving them the advice that I may not have gotten
right.
initially on, because me having walked that path, I can, you know,
Give back in that
adjust
way.
their,
Right,
yeah, I can adjust their steps, say, oh, don't do that, I messed up here, so you don't have to, all these
right.
things.
That's how
Um,
I am with my peers and my students. I'm like, don't be like me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, now we're speaking about that. I think one thing that I really made a mistake on was Instagram.
Yes,
Um,
let's go into that. Tell me about that.
I mean, I tried to avoid it at all cost, as you know. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not social media savvy.
Right. But
Uh,
now you're like the social media butterfly. I see you
yeah,
everywhere.
I've been embracing it more and more, uh, as the months have gone on.
Right.
And it's just like everyone says, especially the models, because that's really what caused me to try and finally get in,
Right.
was model after model saying you need this, and then agents even saying you need this,
Right.
and then finally I was like, all right, I'll make it.
So
um
what differences have you seen after you've made the Instagram change
yeah,
regarding
well,
your
for
career?
one, even as a freelance model, because I made the Instagram initially when I was still unsigned,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped me to get signed.
Right.
um, and the connections also, you know, because I was like, I feel like I was like a grandpa at that point, because I had no idea about Instagram. Like, oh, how does this work?
Put in
Hashtag this,
stories. Yes.
all this stuff. But once I figured it out, like I started hashtagging or whatever,
Right.
and I started getting attention from other agents that I was
Which is perfect. Yeah.
yeah, that I was interested in. And um there's been I gotten some work even as a freelance model from just Instagram alone,
Right.
of like other, brands or agents just reaching out saying, hey, we like your look, would you like to work with us? This is what we're doing, this is the idea.
Yes.
So, it definitely was a big benefit to me.
Right.
I wish that I would have known, as I was making Instagram and, kind of uploading pictures, what they look for specifically, like agents,
Right.
because
So what
it's
are they looking for?
um yeah, like I think a lot of it depends on what you're going for. So the model needs to understand and have a very clear and distinct goal, well, not goal, but like desire, as far as
Right.
like what exactly do you want to be? What type of model do you want to be?
Right.
Or what types of models do you want to be? And your Instagram needs to, the content needs to be that, like specifically. Um, and then your your pictures need to be like kind of model-esque, I
Right.
call it. Just like they have to be like model worthy.
Right.
Which you can do that if you're just getting into it. You can do it with just like a smartphone or an iPhone. You just have to understand, like, again, how to position yourself. Like in my experience, like it helps a lot to show off
Hmm.
your long limbs if you have them.
Right. Right.
Especially with women. Um, so one
Yes,
way
it's all
they
about
can
the
do that,
legs.
yeah, it is. Um, so you can kind of like position the phone like toward the ground and like
Hmm.
it looking up so that you appear a lot longer, you know?
Right. And then what
Um,
about for the male models? What are some
oh,
tips and tricks regarding, uh, I guess, for camera and posing with phones or even Instagram tricks? Because I know it's different for men and women.
yeah, for sure. I think for men by and large, with the exception of lifestyle modeling, which is kind of every day,
Hmm.
with with the exception of that, like in my experience, I found that the multitude of or majority of agents, they're looking for a look in the face, like whether it's like high cheekbones or like a jawline,
Right.
and there's like a angles that you can hit to kind of extenuate like your jaw or your cheekbones if you have them, your higher cheekbones if you have them.
Right. So what does that
Um,
look like to accentuate the jaw or the cheekbones?
I think, well, I mean, for me, like I have both, so I uh, I kind of just what I. It's kind of funny doing this here, but I so I guess like for me, like I kind of like tilt my head like to the side and then
Yeah.
slightly up
So
because
you
when
can
you
see
tilt
those
your
lines.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's all about those lines there. So you really want to have your jaw up and then
Right.
like to the side, almost like like a 45-degree
Uh-huh.
angle, like
Yeah.
but looking at the camera, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that's
Serving
one
face.
yeah, that's one kind of thing that I do here and there. Even when I pose like um for like other brands or whatever. Like
Hmm.
I've been told that like that's like a really good like look.
Yes. Once you know your angles and that specific model-esque type of picture or look that their agencies or brands are looking for, then you need to hit it every time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with practice makes perfect. So don't be afraid
Absolutely.
to get in the mirror and, you know, do that.
Right. So before we wrap things up, let's talk a little bit about your struggles and then your proudest moments that you've had as a male fitness model.
Oh yeah. Okay, absolutely. So struggles and then proudest moments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let me just start off with the struggles first.
Because I know we've
So
touched on the weight part, but
yeah. So I think for me, I am a very competitive person by nature. So when I realized that, I had to kind of keep that in check in the industry because there's always going to be someone that like is a little bit better,
right,
or more cut or more like Greek god physique,
right,
and like in my mind, I want it to be like the best. Like I want it to be the greatest.
right.
Like I want it to be the best, not just top tier, but the best within
The
the
best,
top tier.
yes, right,
So, being at certain gigs or whatever where I'm doing work and everyone just looks like they fell out of heaven. Like especially early on in my career, like it's not, it was, it's easy to get insecure,
right,
be like, all right, well, am I good enough, Um, even if like you stepped in feeling confident, uh,
right.
but for me, like the biggest thing that helped me was just kind of my like mantras that I meditate on because
Oh yeah,
yeah, like that kind of like got me through my dark times, like when I was getting a lot of like rejections early on,
mm-hmm.
you know. One
So
of
what
those
kind of
things,
mantras would be that you would say to yourself to be able to help you out?
well, one of the things was I would just remind myself um, that there is more. eh, how do you say? It's like the goals that you're trying to reach. Like within those failures, there's gold more valuable than the success itself in
Right,
the failure. You just have to be humble enough to extract it and use it to your advantage, you know.
right.
Um, and honestly, there was also another kind of like idea that I would like play around with in my mind and remind myself with when I was going through these rejections early on.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually from a book that I read a while back. Um, it's pretty popular. It's called As a Man Thinketh. Um,
Okay, I've heard of it.
yeah, but anyway, in this book, it talked about like I'm just gonna make it really brief.
Yeah.
But anyway, as the story goes, there's this guy that um, wants to try and strike it rich during the California gold rush. So he goes and he starts digging, hires a team, and they're digging for weeks on end. He gets tired and he quits. The only catch is when he goes back to wherever he's from, he reads in a newspaper that you know someone else like struck gold like in
Right.
his hole. So and the kicker is like that really stuck got me was and this is a true story by the way.
Really?
um yes,
Oh my
this
goodness.
actually yeah this actually happened. So the kicker is the guy. So I guess there was another guy that just was like, all right, well, I'll just dig now that since this guy quit,
Right.
and the gold was only a few yards deep from where
Oh, that's
the guy left off.
crazy. Yeah.
And so the moral of the story was when you feel like quitting, success is on the other side of that.
Right.
So you got to go, you got to dig, you got to dig, you got to dig. You got to get past the point of quitting a few times. And when you feel like you just have nothing left, that's where success is. That's where your
Right.
breakthrough is. And so that really stuck to me when I read it, and I just kept like reminding myself. I was like, it's gonna get better. It's with each failure, I'm getting closer to that success. With each no, I'm
Right.
getting closer to that yes. So for me, that was like two of the main ways that I kind of helped myself get beyond the failures and the rejections, mentally.
Right.
Um, and then proudest moments. Being signed to 10 was one big one.
Yes.
And then um, another one, I got some print ad work.
Mm-hmm.
I was modeling swimsuit for Target.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, so that was like kind of cool. How they took it.
Right.
Um, yeah, but
So, what are your dream campaigns and where are you looking to go from here?
um, honestly, uh, Jacqueline, I just want to like take over. I wanna, I wanna show out in the industry,
Yes.
as a fitness model, as a swimsuit model.
Right.
One of my biggest influences was Tyson Beckford, um, and the world knows him for his greatness,
Right.
um, as a Ralph Lauren model.
Yes.
But he did
Yep.
so much. He did so much other types of modeling. Like he was like,
Right. He was not a one-man show.
yeah,
He was more than a jack of all trades. He was the jack.
yeah, he was the Jack, and he was a master of,
Right.
of all trades that he partook in. And for me, like that showed me that it could be done because someone has done it.
Right.
Um, so that's kind of like what I would like to do. I mean, he did a little bit of fashion too. I'm not particularly a fashion model,
Right.
but I'm not opposed to fashion.
Right.
I think before the pandemic, I actually got selected for Chicago's runway. Um,
So cool.
yeah. So then I was gonna walk, but then the pandemic hit. So
Oh, right.
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it was cool, like just being able to work with like designers and saying, "Hey, I want you to
Yes.
model my brand," you know.
Right.
Uh,
And it's a
but
totally different world. It's a fun one, but it's very different.
it's very different. It's very different, especially well, no, for the men and the women, because I don't think that like my build would be conducive to like having massive success as a fashion model because they're very skinny.
Right.
Even the
Right.
men, you know. Um, so that's part of the reason why I'm not really super hot about being a huge fashion, you know, because
Right.
I like my physique.
Right.
But yeah,
But you never know.
yeah, who
Maybe there'll
knows,
be
you know?
designers who would prefer that build on the runway. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, well, there definitely was some in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah,
I love that
absolutely.
you mentioned your aspirational person that you look up to, because that was my next question of who you look up to and why. So I love that you really broke down being the top of the top. So what steps are you taking right now, especially during this pandemic, again with the slow work, to be able to build yourself and be ready? Because for those listening, being ready is key.
It's everything.
Yes.
It's everything. And for me, I think the biggest bit of advice that I can offer the viewers and listeners is it all starts in your mind. You know, you can have all of your dots crossed as far as like what you physically look like, but if you're not there mentally, when you get that that phone call or that email, you're gonna break. You know,
Right.
you're gonna crack, and you're not gonna be ready.
Right.
Um, and so I think the biggest thing is preparing yourself mentally. And for me, that means living it out in my mind day after day, week after week,
Right. Having
month
that
after
vision,
month.
living and breathing
Yes,
it in your dreams. Yes.
literally, like quite literally, like becoming that within yourself before it takes place, so that when it does happen, you've experienced it so many times that it just feels like second nature to you,
Right.
you know?
You've already
And
had that
that's
practice, so you're
exactly,
in. Yeah.
and that's honestly like what I felt by the time I was with 10, when I got signed by 10 and then when I was working for 10, like, because I was still like doubting myself at that point. Okay, and then I began to live out my vision. So when it
Right.
happened, I was like, all right,
You
here we
fit
are.
in. It's a perfect match. You've
Yeah,
already been doing it. Yep. Just a matter of
yep,
suiting up and showing up.
absolutely, absolutely. And that goes for like anyone listening. It all starts in your mind. There's nothing that you
Absolutely.
can't achieve. There's nothing that you can become. But the process of becoming starts within. If you can win that battle, then any battle on the outside is child's play.
Right. And that is the perfect note to end on. So thank you so much for this amazing interview. You've dropped so many gems. I'm just like, I'm sure all the listeners that are watching would be going, yes, time to create my vision. So
Absolutely.
thank
I'm
you
glad to
very
help.
much.